Hey comrades, and welcome back to We Read It One Night, the podcast where two sisters lead you on a journey of love. This month, we're celebrating autistic romance and how it helped me, Allison, realize that, surprise, surprise, I'm actually autistic. We're starting off with the book that started it all for me, The KISS Quotient by Helen Hoang. This book is sweet, sexy, and oh so funny. So cuddle up with your favorite honey badger or dragon and enjoy the show. Did you know, I cannot for the life of me remember where I heard this, but you know Gisele Bündchen?
Yeah.
So she's married to Tom Brady, who,
Yeah.
for, you know, those of you who don't, I guess, live in the U.S., he's an American football player, and she's a hot Brazilian model.
Mm-hmm.
And she apparently is like a witch, like low-key.
Really?
Like Tom Brady has said in like multiple interviews. Not that she's a witch, but he's like, yeah, my wife always has me do like specific chants and like specific rituals like before all the games. And like
Nice.
certain years she'll be like, oh, like this is your season. Like, honey, like I'm going to be with you. I'm going to support you. And then like that season I'll win the Super Bowl. And then like the next year she'll be like, you know, sweetie, this isn't your season, but like we'll get through it. Like, and then like, you know, he doesn't win the Super Bowl or whatever. So like, I feel like we've been giving Tom Brady like too much credit. His success is actually like Tom Brady isn't the GOAT. It's Gisele. Gisele is the GOAT. Like has I guess some sort of like coven.
She's from, where is she from? She's from Brazil originally, I think.
Brazil, yes. She's
and
Brazilian.
She has like 6 sisters, like some absurd amount of sisters. So maybe they're actually all like a coven. She has 5 sisters. She has a twin, actually, Patricia.
Oh my God. You want to talk about witchy stuff?
I know.
Is Patricia identical?
No, she's fraternal.
Oh, talk about not even just that, but talk about getting like the short end of the stick. Gisele and Patricia.
Oh, of all the sisters are Raquel, Graziella, Gabriella, Rafaela, Patricia, and Gisele.
Wow, why do they hate Patricia so much?
I know. Oh my God. And it's not even like she's not even like the oldest, like named after someone.
Yeah. Well, maybe like someone like passed away like right before she
Maybe.
was born, like so she is named after someone. But like listen, Patricia's not like a bad name. It's just like when you name all your other kids like Gisele and Raquel, what are you doing going with Patricia?
Patricia looks very similar to Gisele. She's just like 6 inches shorter. So that probably explains it.
Right.
Back when models were actually tall.
I'm just saying, so there are 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
We have at least one
That's enough
twin.
for a coven.
And I'm just saying like 3 is a significant, is like a number, you know what I mean? It's like a witchy number, like in like
3.
mythology and shit like that. So it's like double, toil and trouble. Like confirmed theory. Gisele Bündchen and her sisters are witches. Complimentary, not derogatory.
You know, of course, yeah. Can it even be derogatory at this point?
And also, Gisele is responsible for all of Tom Brady's Super Bowl wins.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a natural corollary.
Okay. So today, we're not discussing a book that has to do with witches. This book is called The KISS Quotient by Helen Hoang. It is a contemporary. It is a rom-com that it is actually funny.
Yeah, it's funny, and it's not like at the character's expense. It was a very funny, sweet book. I remember really liking it, but I liked it like almost even more the second time. I also like forgot most of it. But
yeah, no, I mean, I remembered as I was going along, but I wasn't like when I started, I was like, oh yeah, I remember how this ends. So first of all, our 2 main characters are Stella and Michael. His mom is Vietnamese. Stella also is autistic. And it's in own voices, autistic romance, because Helen Hoang is autistic. And she was actually diagnosed like late in life. Like she wasn't diagnosed until her daughter was getting diagnosed. So then she was like, oh, there's a lot of similarities here. Like, is this fucking play about me? Yeah. What? But because of that, we recently saw a video that was like talking about how like they've never found an evidence of like autism in cats because like they've never found like a neurotypical cat, which basically just means like all cats are just like naturally autistic. Which means that this book gets an automatic +2 on the cat scale.
Well, I was thinking about that after I sent it to you, and I was like, is that, I mean, Is that kind of just like another play on the whole, like, every cat is a psychopath? Remember that joke, like, way back when? Like, they're all trying to kill you? I just don't know if that's where that, like, are they actually testing the cats for autism? Or, like, are they just saying, like, I don't know.
They've just never found a neurotypical cat.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure autism exists in dogs because I'm pretty sure my friend was like, yeah, my dog has autism. I don't know. Don't fact check me on that. Don't quote
No,
me.
that actually, like, rings a bell in my head. Or something else with dogs that
Yeah, I think we've
anxiety for dogs, although not
well, but that's
definitely,
like
but that's different, yeah. Another A word, though. I just don't know if that's what I'm thinking
Thank
of.
you.
No, I'm just saying, like, when you said it, it triggered a bell in my head. I just don't know if it's, like, I've heard
I'm pretty sure we had that
or
argument before when my friend told me that her dog had autism, and you were like, no way.
So this book opens with Stella having dinner with her mom and dad. And her mom's like, Stella, dear, you should know that we're ready for grandchildren. Have you tried Tinder? It's just like, oh my God. Like, Stella she's 28, right? Even though she puts 30 on her dating profile for some reason.
No, she's 30.
Oh, she is 30. Okay,
older
why
than
did
Michael.
No, I knew that, but I was thinking she was 28. He was 26 for some reason. Because
No.
I could have sworn it doesn't matter. But like, yeah, her parents are just like, yeah, we just wanted to let you know our expectations. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, this is
the classic parent move.
Yeah.
Our mom has always been very much like, do whatever the fuck you want. Like, don't like give in to society's expectations. But recently, and I always thought it was going to be our grandmother, our mom's mom, that like started pressing. And she definitely asked me if I have like a boyfriend every time I see her.
Yeah.
But recently, our grandpa has been like, when are you going to get a husband?
And kids, yeah.
I was not expecting that from him.
Me neither.
Like,
out of left
he was
field.
like, when am I going to get to see my grandchildren? And I was like, what? Like, was not expecting
We're your grandchildren.
Oh, I mean, his great-grandchildren. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
He was like, I want babies or whatever. And I was like, excuse me? Like, what is this? Like, final boss level? I thought I'd already conquered this. Anyway, every time he does that, I'm like, well, what if, like, instead of a husband, I had a wife? And then he's like, what? And he just gets very flustered and, like, just doesn't fully. And so I basically just, like, turn, his, like, toxic masculinity back around on him. And it just, like, freaks him out. And
you just need to, like, make it seem as if, be like, why are you asking me that? It's normally something only women would ask. Like, just turn it around that way.
No, I make it gay, and then he gets very flustered. Yeah. It's really my most effective tactic.
Uno reverse.
Yeah, Uno reverse. Like, you have a wife. Why can't I have a wife? Having a wife, like, you're the one that always says that the wife has to be like the cooking and the cleaning and like doing and like taking care of her husband. So like, why would I want a husband when I could have a wife to do that for me, Grandpa?
Yeah.
Like, excuse me, like, one of those sounds like the sweeter deal, and it's not a husband.
Riddle me that.
Yeah. And you know who would if I had a husband? You know what kind of husband would? Pa. Pa would make me dinner. Pa is a cook. It's not necessary, but it's definitely like, like on the Pa spectrum, being a good cook. For sure.
Definitely pancakes and like bacon with maple syrup on a Sunday morning. That's like for sure. But I don't know about like, I know.
Pa wouldn't make me bacon.
Maybe he would make bacon.
And just torture me. Bacon still smells really good to me, even though I don't eat it.
Just enjoy the smell.
Yeah, but then I want to.
It's a revolution.
Like, crisp.
You make veggie bacon.
You want a revolution? I want a revelation. So listen to my declaration.
What?
So we hold these truths to be self-evident.
Oh, I somehow knew it was going to be.
Pa would never make me bacon.
I was like, or is it from like the Mormon musical? What is it called again? Church of Latter-day Saints.
The Book of Mormon.
The Book of Mormon.
The Book of Mormon.
It's like it's
literally just called the Book of Mormon.
So Stella's mom, it's interesting because we only see her parents a few times, but in this initial scene, her dad seems kind of like the more supportive one because he's like, oh, Stella, how are you doing at work?
It's like the classic like Mrs. Bennett and Mr. Bennett.
Right. But then later on, we kind of get a little switch. And then her mom is the one who's like, she's like, oh, I'm going to like touch you and like wear perfume so you can like practice, like quote unquote.
Oh my God.
Like, and Stella's like, I fucking hate this. Like, get it away from me. But she like puts up with it.
Yeah, I got I used a lot of emojis in my notes, particularly the like angry face emoji and also the like big eyes, like emoji. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? Like the one where
Yeah.
it's like the, oh, that's so cute
Uh-huh.
face.
Yeah.
Like very frequently throughout my notes. And the first emoji was when her mom was like casually like touching her, and
Oh,
Stella was like, I don't like it. And she knows that I don't like it, but she's still
yeah.
doing it. And I was like, mm.
I
And she was
know.
also, and I'm not going to say who, I'm not going to out the person who said this to me. But before I got diagnosed with autism, when I was like talking about autism with a certain someone, and they were like, oh, yeah, like that's how you should like treat autism. Like you should like force like autistic kids to like exposure therapy basically, but like not actually therapy, because it's like,
Just
yeah,
random
they were like,
people.
we should just force them to become comfortable with like touching. And I'm like, it was just so, and I remember I shared that with my therapist. My therapist was like, what the fuck? What the, it's
I
just because
know.
it's not
It's so
exposure
stupid. I
therapy
know.
in
I
that case. It's
understand.
like the autistic person learns how to mask, and then
No,
it
I
just creates
know.
compounding trauma.
I think it probably comes from the whole idea of like, yeah, people just don't understand what exposure therapy is, because I was talking about, I think people have this idea of like, oh, you just need to like get back on the horse and like, do things you're scared of and somehow it'll fix it. But that's not what it is. That's not what any kind of therapy is. It's like a measured, like in a controlled environment. You know what I mean? Like it's not just like throw
Yeah.
things. That's how people develop issues with things to begin with. It's like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're not going to be afraid of dogs until you're exposed to a dog. But like after
Right.
that, if you have a bad experience, just like throwing dogs at you is not going to like solve it. Like what?
Like one dog under each arm, like
Yeah.
softball throwing them towards you, like under.
Right. No.
It's a scare tactic.
You wanna tell that story?
Okay. I tried. So our brother's room is really, he has like a different like heating air conditioning system than the rest of his house, and he keeps his room really cold, and sometimes it's very hot in the house and his room is very cold. So I went in there the other day to like take a little nap, but he was still sleeping, and I got into bed with him, and then he he just started like barking at me. I was like, what are you doing? I wasn't scared. I was just like, what's going on? And he was like, it's a scare tactic.
And then you came back
So
and did
then
it
when
to
he
me.
started like physically muscling me out of the bed, I left, and then I got back in. Rachel and I are sharing a room right now because our grandparents are here. And I get back in the room and Rachel's like, where did you go? And I was just like, "Arr, arr, arr, arr." It's a scare tactic. And then just would not explain for like the rest of the day.
I feel like it comes from the whole like, oh, if someone's like acting creepy towards you, just act as crazy as possible and like act
Yeah.
crazier than they are and they'll get scared off. It's a scare tactic.
Yeah. Yeah. So Stella works as an
econometrician.
oh, that's what it is. I was like, I can
Yeah.
only remember econometrics, and I couldn't remember like what the job title was, which is basically just super fancy math economics. Rachel, would you like to give a better explanation of
No,
what?
that's fine. I do appreciate the math on the cover since that's like what all of graduate level economics is. Even though it's algebra on the cover, I'm pretty sure.
But yeah, so she's really good at her job, and she's like a workaholic. She works like 7 days a week because she finds it really comforting, which is a thing with autism, like getting like hyperfixating on things and also like liking routine. And she tells her parents, she's like, yeah, I'm up for a promotion. I got like a promotion again, but I turned it down because like it would require having direct reports, and like I don't want that. And I was like, honestly, like I get it. Like every time, like when I first started working at my current job, like one of like the higher up people, like we were at happy hour or whatever, and he was like, oh, you're gonna be like all of our bosses one day. And I was like, God, I hope not.
I
Like
know.
that just seems like every time mom's like, oh, you're gonna be the CEO, I was like, no, that sounds like so much work that I don't want.
Yeah. No, honestly, I've recently in the past like few years came to I'm just like so bitter that like quote unquote leadership positions are so pushed and like required for college, because like I have never had any interest in being a quote unquote leader of like clubs and shit. Like I just don't like that. And here's the thing. 99% of people don't need to be that, right? Like we don't need that many leaders.
Yeah.
Why is that the one thing that's prioritized? It's useless. I hate it. It's like not even like, why is it a required skill for like everything? You know? Like I am so bitter about that. I just like don't understand why. It's like for what? I do feel like Stella is almost like hyper adapted. I feel like she's like the ideal person to live in this like horrible society where everyone is expected to go sit in front of a computer all day every day because that's what
Yeah.
she loves. Like can you imagine? I feel like that's a superpower to have, to be like, hyper focused and like super interested and like love like go sitting in an office all day, and to like
Yeah.
I don't like, what a convenient thing to be super into. I feel like I don't know.
But it's also supposed to be like she's sort of like,
I know she
it's
struggles in
also
other
like a
ways, but
coping like slash masking mechanism in a lot of ways, because she's avoiding, she doesn't want to like interact with like the quote unquote real world or like other people because she's had like bad experiences in the past and because it's difficult for her. And so like it's an avoidance technique as well.
True. Yeah. I just feel like if the capitalist, I don't know, whoever is in charge of capitalism were to sit down and like design their ideal
The king of
person.
capitalism.
Yeah, it would be Stella.
Who's the what mascot is that best for?
Colonel Sanders, maybe. That's like the
No,
king
no,
of
no.
mercantilism, I feel like.
Yeah, no. You know what I feel like for some reason, like I'm getting Kool-Aid Man. Like he's the king of capitalism. You know what I mean? Do you see how that vibe is there?
Yeah.
Oh, you know who it is? It's the Quaker Oats guy.
Oh yeah.
The Quaker Oats guy is the king of capitalism.
No, because
Mhm.
I feel like he's Quaker, right? So he's like they're all about like sharing and like pacifism, aren't they?
Sure, but like, you know who else was a Quaker? Who the Quaker Oats guy is based off of, and but not actually him?
Who?
William Penn, founder of Pennsylvania, who was like definitely not following those Quaker beliefs.
But again, mercantilism, I feel like back then, right?
Yeah. What other mascot?
The Monopoly Man. Like that's the most
Ah,
obvious.
that's too
A little too on the
obvious.
nose.
We'll give it some thought.
Burger King. Burger King.
Yeah.
The Burger King.
No. Ronald McDonald.
Yeah.
He's the secret. The Burger King King is the front, and Ronald McDonald is the man behind the curtain, controlling, like pulling the puppet strings
and smiling while he's doing it. Yep.
With his bodyguards, the Coca-Cola polar bears.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, you're right.
Yep. We've landed on a conspiracy theory, and it's 100% true.
So Stella's parents are like, oh, why don't you try getting with Philip James, your like coworker / our family friend? And Stella's like, well, he's conceited and abrasive, but he is a direct speaker. She liked that in people. She's like, and she tells her mom, she's like, I think he has several personality disorders. And her mom's like, maybe he'll be a good match for you then. Which is just like,
oh God.
I can't believe the mom made a recovery relative to the dad later on. I wouldn't have thought it possible.
I just like, wow, both the parents kind of suck. Philip James does not deserve either name, but especially the name James. I'm like very upset. Like that's my favorite boy name, and like the fact that Philip James has it is unacceptable.
So Stella like tells her mama, okay, I'll try, whatever. And then she goes to work, even though it's Sunday morning, because she works, as Allison was saying, 7 days a week.
Wait, she's also thinking about how like she hasn't had a boyfriend before. Like she's only had sex like a few times because she's like she has sensory issues, and so she has a lot of problems with sex. She kind of like freezes up, and she's like, I'm just bad at sex. And I'm like, no, every guy you've had sex with is an asshole. Because she's like, I literally become like stiff as a board when I have sex because it's just like very overwhelming for me. And like these guys just like I don't know what the direct quote is, but multiple times she's like, they just like keep grunting and panting over me or whatever. Right. And I was like, what? Like, yeah, that's not even just like your regular run of the mill, like, it wasn't that good sex. Like, what the fuck?
Like, no, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And they notice because she's like, yeah, they'll be like the last guy, she was like, he finished, told her she needed to loosen up and left. So like, it's not like they don't notice. Like they know, like, I don't know. I don't know how you could not. But
yeah. The first time I read this book was like before I was diagnosed with autism. And this was actually the book that like made me first start thinking that I had it, because I was like, hang on, like, is this fucking play about me? And like somehow reading the book after having a diagnosis is just like so much more uncomfortable. And like I've noticed that just like in general, like with like I feel like my sensory issues have like been heightened ever since like diagnosis, but I think that's just because I'm like finally like allowing myself to feel them and like acknowledge them instead of like trauma responding them back down. And like so like this book was just like because I just like felt it so much more with Stella, because I was like, I do that, like oh my God. Like oh no.
Yeah. So Stella goes into work. She works every day. And like a few hours in the morning to go have breakfast with her parents is as much as she'll ever take off. And Philip comes into her office and he's like somehow they start talking about like he's going on a date with like the young intern.
He has an economy-sized box of condoms.
Yeah.
He probably got them from Poppy's mom.
Oh my God.
There was like a 2-for-1 deal and they split the cost. And yeah, he's gonna go fuck the intern. He's gonna like have a date with the intern, and he's just like a
Mhm.
general dick. And he like asks her if she's a virgin, Stella.
Mhm.
And I just like, why doesn't this book end with this man getting fired?
I know. I don't
What
understand.
the
Like,
fuck?
I know he even gets, like, a consolation. Like, I don't understand. Stella's to the end is like, "Oh, I'm glad I don't have to feel guilty about, like, turning him down again or whatever." Like, no. Why would no.
Philip James needs to be fired. Yeah, and he says that she needs to practice. And so Stella's like, wow, Philip James is right. I do need to practice to be better at sex. And so she decides to hire a escort, and she Googles this on her work computer. I was like, the balls on this woman. Not even pull up incognito. Like, she just pulls up Google at work on the work Wi-Fi on her work desktop and is like,
It's
San
true.
Francisco escort services. I was like, Stella, ma'am, what are you doing?
Oh my god. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Wow. Yeah, don't do that on your work computer. Just generally just no.
No, but even if your work computer is using the same Wi-Fi as your house Wi-Fi, like, use incognito mode, because that could, if you're using the same Wi-Fi, like, it could still come up. Just letting you know.
So, okay, so now we cut to Michael, who is our hero. And he is like getting ready for a night of escorting because surprise, surprise, he's the one Stella picked. And he's like thinking about how much he hates it really. And like, it's usually like, you know, rich older women who don't really like care about if he's having a good time and just, you know, are looking down on him mostly, I think is the big thing. Like, that
Yeah, he
are
just
still
feels
like,
very devalued. Like, it's just very
yeah.
draining for him. He's struggling. The reason he does it is because he's struggling with bills. His mom has like stage 4 cancer, and it's like, obviously the American healthcare system is evil, and so he like escorts so he can pay the bills. But he is like, he's looking at like a bill for his mom, and then he's looking at the bill for his like,
No, his STD records. Yeah.
and I was just like, what a contrast, like,
Yeah.
between those two.
The American healthcare system sucks, but the reason that his mom specifically doesn't have health insurance, even though she thinks she does, like, somehow, I don't know,
He's
like,
been telling her she has
he's
great
been
health
telling her
insurance
she
this entire
does.
time.
It's because his dad is an asshole, and I don't know if we wanna, like, wait for the reveal,
I think we
but
just say that now.
yeah, so his dad basically, Michael, his big thing is that he thinks that he's gonna be as bad as his dad because they have so much in common, and his dad is, like, a terrible person. He's a con artist basically, and he like has conned tons of women, including his wife, Michael's mom, in addition
And
to
has, like,
cheating on
cheated on
her
her.
for
Yeah.
years. And he basically like, you know, wiped out all her bank accounts, took out a ton of loans in her name. And she definitely knows about that. So I don't know how she doesn't know about the health insurance. I just don't like, I don't know. But yeah, Michael has not told anyone in his family and doesn't even by the end of the book. Like none of his
Which,
5
like, I don't
sisters.
think he needs
Yeah.
to.
None of his 5 sisters know about it either. He just but his big thing, he, like, won't ask for help from anyone, which
Yeah. Yeah, it's his big thing. Yeah, and his mom does own, like, a dry cleaners and, like, tailoring business, but that was, like, she almost, like, lost the business because of, like, when his dad left and, like, took everything, which is
Mhm.
a wonderful reminder, friends, to, keep all your finances separate even when you get married.
Well, you can't really do that.
Yeah, but, like, if we don't have a joint bank account, can I take out a loan in my spouse's name?
I mean, who knows if it was legal to begin with when he did it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then why would she have to pay them back? If he illegally took out a loan, why does she have to pay them back? Because she's like, she had to mortgage the house and everything.
I'm honestly not sure how it works, but I think you can be liable for, like, your spouse's. No, you definitely are, even if like for medical care, for example. Like, haven't you heard those, like, stories, sad stories of, like, people getting like, old couples getting divorced because so that, like, they won't be liable for the medical bills? I'm not sure. But yeah, anyway, his dad's an asshole and screwed them all over. So Michael is like thinking about how much it sucks. He has this like whole fantasy that he goes through in his head of like hot for teacher to get ready. And that's his like big thing. He likes, you know, smart women. And then he walks to the restaurant. He walks into the restaurant looking for Stella and he's like, all right, her age says 30, but that's never true. Like anything under 40 is always a lie, unless it's a group thing, which I don't do. And he's like, because I hate like, the idea of destroying young love depressed the hell out of him.
Well, he's talking about specifically in terms of bachelorette
No,
parties.
I
He's
understand,
like,
but
I don't do bachelorette parties.
no, I know. He wanted to live in a world where young bride-to-bes only slept with their grooms-to-bes and vice versa. But, like, do people actually sleep with the
Yes.
strippers on their bachelorette parties? As a
Yes.
group? Like, I don't get it.
I don't know as a group, but like, yes, that is a thing. Some people think that it's like not like, oh, you're not married yet. It's like your last night of freedom, TM or
Mm.
whatever. Yeah, no, it's super shitty, but people definitely do that. That's not, yeah. But yeah, Michael has to, before he goes, he like jacks off in the shower a little bit. I mean, he doesn't like jack off. He just like, you know, loads the gun.
Like, yeah, so he like, figures out it's her by process of deduction because everyone else in the restaurant already has another person with him. She's the only one alone. And it's, like, pretty awkward initially. Stella's like, basically, I am terrible at sex. I'm terrible with guys, and I want you to help me practice. And I don't just want it to be a one night thing. I want to like hire you for a few lessons. And instead of saying like no, he's like, I'm absolutely not doing this. I never do repeat client visits, like because it's too
Because
messy. He
he
had a bad
did do like
experience.
them before, and like he had like this one client who we'll meet later, like basically like
Mhm.
stalked him and like was obsessed with him, and he was like, never again.
Right. But he doesn't tell her that like right away. Because I don't know, like it takes him a long time to like take her seriously.
Yeah, he just doesn't believe that like anyone, he's like, she's way too hot. Like there's no way she's like this bad and awkward at sex. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
Stella does try to pull an Edward by getting him to agree to the proposal before telling him what it is. She's like, "Will you promise me something?" And he's like, "Well, what is it?" And she's like,
He's
"No, no,
like,
promise." And he's
no,
like, "No, I'm not gonna do that." Which is
no,
the
no.
reasonable and rational response to that, people, just in case you were wondering. That's
But Michael also they're having dinner and she's like, don't eat lamb because she doesn't like the taste of lamb, which I agree.
Mhm.
Like the taste of lamb is fucking disgusting. She's like, it tastes woolly. She's like, I don't want to kiss you and have it taste woolly. But this whole dinner, like Michael, like Stella just keeps like treating him with respect. Like she keeps treating him as like a
Yeah.
person. Like and he's like, oh my god, like nobody ever treats me like a person. He's like so shook.
Because she's like, "Is there anything you would prefer that I not eat or drink either?" Like, that's the first thing.
He's like,
Yeah.
what? Like she's
Yeah.
not just viewing me as a sexual object? Like, holy fucking shit. And because he also has, like, apparently he looks like a K-drama star, like some sort of, like, in that universe K-drama star. And he's like, I always
Mhm.
get, like, older Asian women trying to fuck me because I look like this K-drama star. And, like, it always reminds me of fucking my mom, and it's horrible.
And then
It's like, oh
Stella's
no.
like, "Oh, no, you're better looking than he is." Of course.
Yeah. And then she starts talking about something. She like says what she does for a living or something. Cause Stella's 100% honest. Like this whole time, Michael's assuming that she's just like lying about her name and her age and everything. But like
Mhm.
she just gives him all of her personal information right
Yep.
off the bat. And at some point, she like finds out she's like, I don't know, she does something with like math or whatever. And he's like, damned if he didn't have a thing for smart girls. And
Yep.
like, yeah, Michael has like a full on like library nerdy
He's
girl
like, she
kink.
gets prettier and prettier as she tells him about the smart people math stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because she gets so excited about her job and he like loves it. He's like, I don't understand a single word of what you are saying, but you look so cute when you talk about it. And he's
Yeah.
just like so turned on. It's just the cutest fucking thing ever.
Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, I guess econometricians make shitloads of money because this is like the most exclusive hotel in the city or whatever." And I'm like, I'm not sure about that, but Stella's like also
Mm.
rich separately, like from her parents.
But she also does
But
make like it said that she makes because she keeps getting, I guess, like pay rises, but like refusing promotions because she like
yeah,
works 7 days a week and she's like, I don't like buy a lot of stuff. So it's like
true.
fine.
Yeah. So they go upstairs. Stella like immediately takes her shoes off and she's like, "Is this rude to do it with someone else?" Like, how could it ever be rude to take your shoes off inside? No, it's
I just
common
don't
courtesy.
understand. It's a stupid, stupid American thing where people don't take off their shoes inside the house. And I'm like, I don't
But I've never
understand.
encountered
It's
it
so
being
fucking
rude
gross.
to do it.
Like, no, but some people, I guess, are like, oh, it's rude to like take off your shoes in front of, to like have your feet. I just feel like that's all like the foot fetish people not wanting to be outed, like
True.
that are like
Mm,
pushing this propaganda. Maybe
mm,
there's just like a much
might be on
larger
to something.
portion of the population that has a foot fetish than we
And
know.
they're all
You know what I
American,
mean?
like, yeah, in the
They're just
US
like hiding
specifically.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Come out.
Yeah.
Be free.
And let me take my
It is
shoes
the
off
most common,
inside. And
right?
also
Yeah.
take your shoes off inside because why the fuck are you tracking dirt all over
I
the house?
know.
Get out
I
of here.
know.
What
So
are you
gross.
doing?
Yeah. So he takes his shoes off too, though, so it's fine. And she's
But also,
like,
they're about to have sex. Like, what are you going to keep your shoes on during sex?
I know. Well, she's just like I think it's just to show she's like nervous
No,
in
I know,
general.
I know, I
But
know.
so she's also like, I forget like how it starts. He like tries to like kiss her, but she immediately freezes up because she like doesn't like kissing at this point. But she's like, oh, but he smells like so good. Like he just smells so good. Even though, like she's like, what cologne is that? And he's like, oh, I don't wear cologne. Like I don't like it. She asked him in the ad to not wear cologne.
Yeah. So it's just his natural scent. But yeah, Michael this whole time is also like, Michael is a consent king, like all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like every interaction they have, he's like, oh, do you like this? Is it okay if I do this? Like, can I do this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. He also has a sick dragon tattoo that wraps around his entire fucking body. It's so
Yep.
fucking cool. Like, wow. Good for him.
Yeah, and
It's
Stella
like
likes it.
starts at like his like right shoulder and like wraps around his torso and like goes across his butt or whatever and like down his thigh and like it's just fucking sick. Like, and Stella's like obsessed with it. She's like, I love it. Like later on during, you know, the big third act breakup, he's like, she liked kissing my dragon tattoo so much. Like he thought even like my dragon missed her.
Oh, my dragon. If only there was a real dragon. This is a shifter book.
AU? Where they're
Yep.
both shifters?
Yep. Stella would be a honey badger. That's her thing. She's like my mascot, the pugnacious honey badger. She says it like twice, but it's stuck in my head so much.
There's one part later on where she's like, she goes to his house and she's like, I want to like leave my scent everywhere, like marking my territory, like a honey
animal.
badger.
Yep. Oh,
Honey badger don't give a shit. Honey badger can do whatever the fuck it wants.
Oh my god, I remember that. This came out in 2018 though, which I feel like was a few years after. I guess that like really stuck out to Helen Hoang in like, you know, the 2000s.
Maybe she just fucking likes honey badgers.
Maybe
she watched a nature documentary.
Valid.
Maybe it has nothing to do with that meme.
It's valid. So Michael's like, okay, we're gonna practice like the talking part of sex. And Stella's like, I've had sex. There's no talking part. And he's like, yeah, there is. And she's like, she actively disliked touching, but she craved connection so much she hurt with it. Yeah, I put a lot of like little sad frowny faces. Yeah.
And Michael takes off her glasses, and when he does it, everything like the background became a soft blur, and he stood out in sharp focus. And I was like, oh, that's so beautiful. And then they start kissing. Finally, they're like on the bed, and he starts French kissing her, and she's like, no, I do not like that. It makes me feel like a shark having its teeth cleaned by pilot fish. I was like, same girl, same.
Oh my god. And they just close lip kissing, and she forgets how to breathe. A la second Twilight reference, Bella Swan. She's both Bella and Edward.
So is this more confirmation that Bella is coded as autistic?
Maybe. Is that
just
a thing?
saying.
Forgetting how to breathe? I don't know. I feel like that's a like,
but just like
becoming heroin thing.
I think, but also like becoming like hyper focused on one sensation and like not being able to think about like other things. So I can like imagine like someone's kissing you and you just like hold your breath like unconsciously.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I've definitely forgotten to breathe at times. Not while being kissed, but like just at times I'm just like sitting there and I'm like, oh, oops. Like I forgot to breathe there for a second. Like I'll be reading a book or something. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. So everything is like going great until
he tries to unbutton
a single button. And that is like too much. And she totally freezes up. And he's like, okay, well, we're not having sex when you're like this, obviously. And she's like, what do you mean? She starts to cry. She's like so upset.
She's like, none of the other guys did this. And God, I was so mad at all the other men Stella has been with. Oh my gosh.
I know. And so is Michael.
Yeah, Michael's right. Michael is constantly ready to like destroy anyone who like makes Stella feel even a little bit bad. And it's wonderful. And he can, because something you'll learn like the next scene is that Michael is a martial artist.
Yep.
He's like trained in like karate, taekwondo, like tai chi, like all of it. Like, he knows all of it. And yes, he definitely could be whoever he wanted up.
Yep. So instead of they do not hook up, Michael's like, all right, we're going to practice cuddling instead. So they cuddle while watching a movie and Stella falls asleep.
A kung fu movie because they bond over their mutual love of martial arts films.
Yeah. So they fall asleep. She wakes up and she's like, oh my God, like I didn't do any of my routine. I didn't brush my teeth. Like this is disgusting. Like my mouth is a breeding ground for germs.
Also me. That's also something I got made fun of all the time when I would like sleep over people's house and I was like, or even like when I could start driving, I would be like, it would be like 3 a.m. and I'd be like, okay, I'm going home. And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, I need to be able to brush my teeth. Like I can't sleep here. Like I can't
You
wake
didn't
up
bring a
tomorrow morning.
toothbrush?
Well, I eventually started bringing a toothbrush, but like the first few times, I would be like, I need a toothbrush from you, like please, I need a toothbrush. Like I can't.
Oh, you
Like
wouldn't be planning to sleep over. Okay, yeah.
no, I would just be like hanging out. And it would get late.
Yeah, it's just so much nicer to sleep at home. We also find out Michael can do the splits. Just FYI, it's a secret talent. I'm very jealous.
What?
He can do the
Wait, when
splits.
does he do the splits?
When they're I skipped this is still when they're like watching the movie, but he tells her that he does martial arts and she's like, "Can you do the splits?" And he's like, "Yeah."
For the uninitiated, the splits is just like a split. It's
Oh,
just
he can do
what
a
was this like
split.
this like what was it like this Korean woman that you were like watching her videos and she
No,
was like I can do the
it's just a
splits.
British way to say it, and I guess Helen Hoang too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she also like breathes in his t-shirt in the bathroom like it was rubber cement. I don't know what that means. I listened to that like 4 times.
Interesting. I did not
Why
catch
rubber
that.
I don't rubber cement.
I don't know
Anyway,
what that means.
then she wakes up the next morning at 9:24 a.m. and she's like, "I never sleep in." And just like, how do people function? I just don't understand how like everyone seemingly functions waking up before like 10 every day, 9, 10.
Well, to be fair, they
No
probably
one
don't go to
does.
bed at 2 in the morning like we do,
I
Rachel.
understand, but like even like I'm gonna be honest, like 8:30, that's the longest I've ever been able to maintain and keep my sanity, like long term. By long term, I mean
Yeah.
like a few months. Any earlier than that, I feel like most people get up in the 7 a.m. range. That's insane.
No, it's insane.
'Cause everyone has different natural sleep schedules. The morning people are oppressing us all. Anyway, um, so Stella puts on Michael's t-shirt the next morning, and he's like, "Oh, I like it. Me likey, naturally."
But she's in the bathroom and she hears him getting dressed. Like she hears him like open up his overnight bag and she sprints out of the bathroom to like try to catch a sight of him naked.
Yeah.
Amazing. And she doesn't even hide it. She doesn't even
Nope.
try to hide it. She doesn't think she's like, I
Nope.
literally like skate out of the bathroom.
Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, like you didn't really get your money's worth. Like I'll give you a refund." And she's like, "No, no. Like what about my deal to like help me, for a few more sessions?" And he's like, "I'm sorry, I really don't do that." And she's like, "Well, but
God.
you could have told me that. Like why did you waste can you recommend one of your colleagues, like another escort to like help me with this? I trust your judgment." And he's like, "No way, don't fucking do that. Like this is a bad plan. Don't
Michael
do it."
goes
And
Hulk smash. He
yeah.
just immediately, he's like, oh God, no, absolutely. She's not allowed to cuddle with anybody
No.
else. No
And
dice.
she's like, "All right, fine. If you won't tell me, like, my method worked pretty well the first time, I'll just go back to the drawing board and search myself." And he's like, "Oh my fucking God, don't fucking do that." But then he leaves.
She's like, don't worry, I have a taser.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah.
Like I have it's totally fine.
And he's like very condescendingly, he's like, "Do you even know how to use it?" And like, "Do you even know how to use a taser, Michael?" Like, okay.
No. She does. And then he's like, you were going to use a taser on me? And she's like, well, I didn't. So obviously not. Like, have you been tased? No. So simmer
If
down.
I wanted to, I would. So
In a second. You wouldn't even see it coming. Your
yeah.
martial arts are nothing to my
Compared to my
electricity.
taser, try your dragon on me. So he leaves, but then like 10 minutes later, he comes like sprinting back, like literally out of breath, sprinting, and he's like, "Fine, I'll do
Yeah.
it. I'll do it."
He's like, 3
And
sessions, fine.
yeah,
But then he's like, you have to promise not to get attached. And I'm like, oh, Michael, you sweet summer child.
I know.
You silly goose.
Well, Stella is like, she's like, okay, but in her head, she's like, well, I get obsessed with things. It's like what I do. I'm definitely gonna get obsessed. But also, like, I just throughout, she was like, oh, I can't lie. Like, I can't lie. And there's like other instances where like she wants to lie, but she like can't. I'm like, all right, well, how can you suddenly like lie about this like secret like
Well,
obsession?
no,
Yeah.
I think she's more like I tend to get obsessed with things, so I have to make sure that I don't get obsessed with
Mm,
him because like if I do, it's not going to go away. It's not going to
yeah.
be something I can stop. So they make out to like seal the deal, and then they're cock blocked by her mom, calling, and
Mhm.
like her mom's like, "Who? Is that a man on the phone?"
So, okay, so then Michael goes to the gym, the martial arts gym, where he
Teaches some classes,
teaches
yeah,
classes and works out with his best friend slash cousin Quan.
and Kwan's brother Kai, who
Mhm.
also is autistic.
Mhm. And Kai is like And Michael is like, "Oh, Kai reminds me a little bit of Stella." Okay.
And yet does not make the connection.
No,
No,
never makes it on its own.
there are no neurons firing in this
No,
man's brain. Like he's
no.
just like, "Oh yeah, like Kai's single-handed determination and like focus and social awkwardness. Like that reminds me a lot of Stella, but like, oh, he's nothing like Stella." I was like, "You are a dummy." Like, have you just been
Yeah.
punched like too many times in the head by like the 12-year-old classes that you teach? Like what it like
I don't know.
sir.
And Quan is like basically like, "Oh, like why have you been like away so much every weekend? Like why can't we ever hang out? Do you have a secret girlfriend?" And Michael's like, "No, I don't. Like I've just been seeing a lot of different people." And Quan's like, I don't give a shit if you're into guys. Like just so you know, I'd be okay with that." And Michael's like, "Maybe I should just roll with that. Like that would be like I could just lie about that instead of like telling them the truth about my escorting. Like God forbid I ask for help."
Yeah. Yeah, because he does escorting every Friday night, and like he only does
Right.
it on Fridays. He doesn't do it
Right.
any other day of the week. Yeah, so now we gotta fast forward over to first lesson number 1, and Stella has created a lesson plan. So we're just gonna keep rolling with this hot for teacher dynamic, like absolutely.
Mhm.
And it has like performance reviews
Oh
on
my
it.
gosh, for her, not Michael.
Yeah, she's like, "Should I have clarified that?" Like, and then he's like, No, like it's fine." But she still goes like down the list and just writes Stella's before every
And
performance.
she's like she's like, "Okay, we've perfected kissing. We don't need to practice that anymore. And besides, like it's too intimate." Like, and he's like, "I think you've watched Pretty Woman one too many times."
And he's mad. Like he gets like genuinely annoyed. He's like pissed that like Stella is like so insistent on keeping things like very professional and like very detached, despite the fact
Mhm.
that like he knows that he needs to keep it professional and detached. And like
Mhm.
it's a good thing that he can't kiss her because like then he'll get even more attached, but he's still like oh, and then he says she's missing a step. Cause like each of her lessons are like it's like hand jobs and then blow jobs and then like missionary and like doggy style and like different positions and stuff. And he's like, "You're missing a step." And she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Foreplay." And she's like, "None of the other men did foreplay." And I'm like, just ready to like grab the steak knives that are
Oh
on
my
this like fancy
god.
table and just like go hunt down all these dickhead men who like
I
were so
know.
horrible to Stella.
I know. And Michael's like like throughout this, he's just like, "Oh, she hadn't." He says something. I forget what. He's like the Pretty Woman comment. He's like, "She hadn't caught his rudeness or his sarcasm. Maybe she was one of those book smart people who didn't know how to socialize." And he just keeps saying like, "Oh, she doesn't
He's
seem to
just
get my sarcasm." Yeah.
he only has 2 brain cells and they are not talking to each other. Like that's all that's happening. He's such a dummy. He's also like she's like, "No cuddling." And he's like, "You cuddle. You like to cuddle when you sleep." And she's
Mhm.
like, "What? No." And he's like, "Yeah, you do." And then in the back of his head, he's like, "And I really liked it. That
Uh-huh.
means nothing good."
So, okay, so they go back. They're finally like ready to start getting naked. Although I think Stella was like technically naked for the cuddling the last time, but this time she's
She's
like
in her
really
broad
naked.
underwear for the
Yeah.
cuddling.
And Michael's like, "All right, let me see your boobs."
Wait, but first she's like, "Should I undress?" And Michael, like sarcastically, because he's still kind of pissed, is like, "I don't know, like, isn't it in the lesson plan?" And then he like immediately feels bad about like belittling, her lesson plans and like being sarcastic with her, but like it just goes right over Stella's head. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're right." And then she goes to write down get undressed at the beginning of every step on the lesson plan.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh my God, like I can't even be like annoyed with her because like she doesn't even understand like why I'm annoyed about he's like, "I just like I can't. Like I'm
Mhm.
already in love with her. Oops.
Yep.
Whoopsie daisy."
Yep. And he's like, "Oh, but I can't like care too much or it'll turn escorting into cheating." And I was just like, "Cheating against who? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't have a girlfriend. Maybe his other clients are cheating. I don't know."
Yeah,
But
I
okay,
don't
so
know.
Stella finally gets naked and he's like, "She had the kind of nipples men and babies dream about." It's just like, I
She's
really didn't
porn
need.
star nipples.
I know, I didn't need that sentence. Like, I just didn't know.
He's like, "They're constantly erect." And then he's like, "They're the kind of nipples like she like sits on him. She like sits on it. Her like boobs are like in his face, like the way they're positioned on the bed." And he's like, "Man, they were like so pointy. Like I may be blinded by these
Oh
nipples."
my god.
Maybe that's also like Michael has like it's like the Oedipus complex, like that babies dream of nipples
God,
that
I
babies
mean, that's what I'm
dream.
saying. Like, I did not need that. Everything bad can somehow be traced back to Sigmund Freud. It's just like that ain't the truth. Like, I don't know. Um, so we find out that Stella does at least masturbate. I'm happy for her with that. Because she
Yes.
does like she's like, I'm only ever, I'm more comfortable doing this alone or whatever, like something like that. And they still don't have sex this time.
But they do like foreplay, and he's like, "Oh, she doesn't want to be kissed on the mouth," so he like kisses her in other places, and I'm like, it's just like really like I know it's like he's not kissing her on the mouth for plot reasons, but it really just shows like romance novelists like you are very much underusing kissing on other parts of the bodies. Like it doesn't automatically have to be on the mouth. Like it can be very very hot to like kiss other parts of the body. And yeah, they do foreplay and she's like shook that she likes it. And then she starts kissing him on the mouth and she's like, sorry, I know I said no kissing, but like, I want this.
Yeah. When does she come up with the idea of like practice dating? Is that before or after ice cream?
That's after. So
Okay.
this night, so she gives him her phone number and then she's like, but you can sign up for like a fake phone number so that like I don't stalk you
Mhm.
afterward. And Michael is once again like, oh my God, she's treating me like a person. This is wild. Like, I don't understand this. And then he invites her to go out to the club next Friday because Quan was like, let's go to this new club in downtown San Francisco. And so
Mhm.
I was like, okay, sure. But she's like not super into it. And she says, like, what she's like, going out was supposed to be fun. For her, it was work, hard work. And I was like,
Mhm.
yep. Mm-hmm. Checks out. Checks out a lot.
So the first place they go is to get ice cream. And Stella's like really not into the idea of sharing ice cream, which I totally get. It just gives me a huge ick. I couldn't tell you why. I've done it, but I hate it. It's just something about that texture of thing sharing with someone else's like juices. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I also just like if I'm really into the flavor and then you have a flavor that I don't particularly like I'm going to be mad that you are eating part of the flavor that I want to eat all of.
Mm-mm.
You know? Stella's like,
Yeah.
because Stella's like, I'm getting mint chip. And Michael's like, oh, I should get a different flavor so that we can
No,
share and so
it's
that you
not
can
how that
try.
works.
And Stella's like, no, I've done very careful research and mint chip is the
Yeah.
best ice cream flavor of all time.
Right. I know. Like I totally like sympathize. Yeah, no. I mean, I'll like, I'll give you like a spoon. I'll let you try it. But and sometimes here's the
Yeah.
thing. I'm a bit of a hypocrite. Like sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, can I have a little spoon of yours?" Just if I'm curious if it's like a weird flavor, even though I know I won't like it. But like something about it is just yeah,
Yeah. But then
no.
he feeds her. He feeds her ice
Mhm.
cream.
No,
He
she likes
feeds
it.
her a
And
little
she's like
spoonful and he holds her hand.
yeah. It's green tea flavor though, which honestly like
Doesn't sound.
not it. But
She also likes his suit.
she Oh
He's
yeah,
wearing
yeah,
a
yeah.
suit.
And
And
she's
she's
like,
like, wow, your
"Oh."
suit's so nice. Like, who made it? And he's like, I did.
He doesn't tell her though. He's like, "Oh, I have a good tailor." And then later she's
Mm.
like, "Wait a second. It was you. You're the tailor."
Yeah. Yeah. Michael likes to design clothes and he like has a fashion degree and everything. But then he had a big like hotshot job in New York, but then he had to like come back home like when his mom got sick and his dad scammed them all and it was very
Mhm.
sad. And yeah, but she likes this very suit and she's like, oh, I want to go to maybe I should switch tailors because like my tailor always stabs me with pins because I'm picky. And again, this is another like Michael's ready to flip the table. He's like, give me her name. I am going to break her legs. Like, what? How dare she stab you with pins? He's so pissed. So now they go to the club and Stella's like thinking she doesn't drink or smoke or like do anything like that. She doesn't like doing that, like in addition to just like not liking
But she
to
was
like go
considering
out.
it. And then Michael doesn't. And she's like, "I don't want to do it by myself."
Yeah, but she's having a thought. She's like, yeah, I don't really like get drunk or like do anything like that because she's like, I don't like to not be able to think. And I'm like, yeah, like I just feel like no one has ever really gotten it when they're like when I tell them like why I don't like being high and like the reason is that like I don't like feeling like I couldn't do a math problem like at any moment like and that's just like the
Mhm.
best way I've ever
Yeah.
figured out how to articulate it and everyone's like what like what the fuck
Yeah,
man like
I don't
chill
really like it
out.
either.
It's
Yeah.
just like people don't really like no one's ever really gotten it but I'm like yeah that this is it like Stella gets it like I just don't like not
She
feeling like
said
I
that?
couldn't. She doesn't think the math problem, but she's like, I don't like not being able like I feel like I can't think. She's like, I
Yeah.
always need to like think things through. I need to be thinking about things. And I don't like when like am under the influence. I'm like, I can't.
Stella pulls out her credit card in her bra, the classic move, and Michael's like, "Ooh, Stella," and I'm like, "Shit!" And she's like, "I have no other options. I have nowhere else to put it." He's like, "You could have given it to me," and she's like, "That's why women have boyfriends, to hold your stuff," which is yet another motive for the pocket conspiracy.
Yes.
It's like,
and she
what?
left her phone at home. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I know.
This is the second time ever you're meeting this man and you're leaving your phone at home.
Don't you remember in the Love Hypothesis I was talking about how people are inexplicably doing that in contemporaries? Like, autism or not, grad student or not, like, don't give me this
No,
shit. You
I
should have
get
your phone.
with Stella, it's like a little bit more believable 'cause she's like, I have nowhere to put it. Yeah, and the Love
Mm.
Hypothesis is just absurd that she doesn't have her phone.
Yeah, and just in general, like, today's day and age. So Stella, one thing she does is always tapping her fingers, and so, like, she's also well, mostly we hear about it when she's trying not to tap her fingers or when Michael is, like, asking her why she's doing it.
Yeah, and it's to Debussy's
Arabesque, which I used to do. I love that song. But I used to tap it. It would mostly be, like, so people would think I was, like, interesting and mysterious and, like, ask me what I was doing. But, yeah.
Okay, so they're at the bar.
Wait.
Stella is experiencing. Wait, what?
I want to play it.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I feel like I vaguely know that song, and I feel like, but oh god, that annoying one! Oh, the one that you would play endlessly when I was trying to take naps? Okay, stop that. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. I feel like I recognize that song not because of your singing, but in spite of it. Like, that was just not a great rendition of that song. So Stella's in the club. They are not playing Debussy's Arabesque. They are playing loud techno music, and there are lights and there are a lot of people. It's like busier than it usually is, and she's just really experienced sensory overload. And then there's this woman, this like 40-year-old blonde woman at the bar who is like eyeing Michael and like taps her seat for him to come over, and like Michael goes over to her and Stella's like, what the fuck, like why is he going over to her? And then she sees the woman kiss Michael, and she's like, I'm out, like I can't fucking, like sensory overload, like Michael's just kissing another woman, like I don't fucking understand it. And she like runs out, and Quan follows her, and she's like says something, she's like, yeah, I was overstimulated. And Quan is like, you know who else uses the word overstimulated frequently? My autistic brother Kai. Are you autistic, Stella? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, but don't tell Michael.
This is an example when she's like, I don't tell him, but I can't lie.
Yeah, she's like, I don't want Michael to know, because like every time I tell people, they always start like walking on eggshells around me, and they like treat me differently, and I just like don't want that to happen with Michael because I really like him. And she's like, I gotta go. She's like, can you lend me $100 for a taxi? And I'm like, I mean, I don't know what the taxi rates are in San Francisco, but that seems like a lot of money for a taxi.
No, well, it seems like a lot of money for Quan to have in cash on him right now. Like what?
Yeah.
I guess he's pulling an Alex from People Weed on Vacation. I'm just like always using cash, I guess. But like
he's a doomsday prepper. Kai and Alex are doomsday preppers. They met because Poppy's mom is also a doomsday prepper, and they went to the annual conference, and that's how PJ got access to the box of It's all coming together. It's one cinematic universe.
We're doing the San Francisco wine tour.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, she's like, I gotta go. And Michael comes out and like sees that she's like trying to leave, and he's like upset that she was trying to leave. But he drives her home, and she's tapping the Arabesque because she's distressed. He explains, he was like that. So the woman in the bar was like one of my former clients, and like I didn't want her to make a scene, and like she was the one that was like stalking me or whatever. So like she kissed me, like I pushed her away, like he's like kind of upset that like she thought that like he's like, you would have been totally justified in leaving if
I was kissing her.
Yeah. But he's like upset. Yeah.
And this is like the real start. It might start a little bit earlier than this, but the real start of Michael being like, I'm not good enough for Stella. Like, she's so smart and has so much going for her, and I'm like a loser. And also I'm like tainted. Like, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Like, my dad's a piece of shit. Therefore, like, I will be. It's kind of like a play.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a play on the Anthony Bridgerton theme of thinking that your life is going to play out identically to your dad's, except
Your
that the dad here
papa's.
is bad versus.
Yeah. He's constantly like, I have like an unending need to like scam.
Yeah, he's like, well, when things get too much, I like think about all the ways that I could like all the people that I could like, weasel money out of and like steal
Yeah, and like
from.
cut corners and all of
Right.
that. And he's like, but he never acts on it. But he's like, I could,
Right.
and that makes me a bad person.
Right.
So yeah, they like, work things out and they get to Stella's house and she has like a piano and a bed and like that's it. She doesn't have like any other stuff in her
Yeah.
house. And I'm like, Stella's like a minimalist autistic and I am a maximalist autistic. I need to be surrounded by things. I need rooms. Open concept is hell. I don't understand how anyone with autism could possibly like open concept things because it's so like, I guess maybe if you live alone, sure. But like the moment you introduce another person into the mix, no way. Like need boxes, need walls, please. Need to not be able to be seen at all times.
So Michael's like, okay, so is this when Stella's like,
This is when she's like, we should end the arrangement because I don't need help with like, it's like worse than like kissing. It's I need help with like dating and relationships.
mhm.
And Michael is like, over my dead body, are we ending this arrangement?
But
Let me be your practice boyfriend.
yep. And he's like, you know what a practice girlfriend would do? Come meet her practice boyfriend's family. And this is like, I feel like, I've been saying this more and more. Maybe I just like have been unfair on the fake dating trope. But I feel like a lot of times, or at least I remember thinking this, that a lot like fake dating would seem like totally contrived, especially in historicals. I remember thinking like it would seem like, there's no reason for it. And it's like they just immediately like get together and the fakeness like goes away right away. So what was even the point of the conceit usually? But like, I don't know. With this, it seems like, I mean, it's still like, pretty out there, but like it doesn't seem, it seems like there's a
Yeah.
reason for it. So I like that.
She's also like Stella's like, I don't know, when I saw that client like kiss you and like be obsessed with you, like the ex-client, she was like, I don't like now the idea of like paying you for sex and like kissing, like
Mhm.
it just like makes me like feel bad. And he's like, she's like, the next time a man kisses me, I want it to be because he wants to kiss me, not because like he's being paid to.
Yeah.
And then like immediately after she says that, Michael's like, hey, come here. And she's like, what? And then he kisses her and he's like, I wanted to do that. But then she's like, yeah, I'll pay you $50,000 a month. I'll pay
my
you
God.
$50,000. Listener, that's how much I make in a year before taxes.
That's what I'm saying. Like Stella's rich. You're not going to tell me she got that from like raises as an econometrician. Like, no.
Oh my God.
And how long, this is, okay, maybe I'm jumping the gun on this, but like how long has she even been working? Because she got her PhD. And like, even if she's like the most precocious, like let's say she graduated college.
She got her PhD at 25. We learned that. She got her
Oh, okay,
PhD at
okay.
25.
So then she's been working for max 5 years.
Yeah. But
There's
she
no way.
also like, I bet
She
Stella's
has
like
money from her
had investment
family.
accounts since she was like 16.
No, but she
You know
also
what
has
I
like
mean?
money. She also got a chunk of money from her family. Like that's the real reason she's
Yeah,
like
she has a
so
trust
loaded.
fund.
Yeah,
I don't think the book is
exactly.
ever trying to hide that though.
No,
Like,
no,
I
no.
think
I'm
from
just
the
saying.
bat, Stella's parents are
I
super
know.
rich.
I just think it was funny that Michael was like, "Wow, so econometricians are like loaded." I'm like,
No.
don't,
Yeah, no, she has
don't
a
get that
trust fund.
impression.
She has a $15 million trust fund.
Don't go into economics for the money. As
No.
counterintuitive as that might sound to a layperson.
Don't do it.
So, okay.
Michael's like, I need to think about it.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, there's a whole bunch of things. Yeah. So yeah, she doesn't meet his family yet. So he needs to think about it. And then Michael, there's just like a scene like before we get like Michael's having a bad day because he like came in, found his mom like passed out in the bathroom and like he thought she was dead and he was like really scared. And then like also because someone from the IRS or like whoever came to like for his dad and like he feels selfish, not wanting to listen to his mom complain about his dad and like not wanting to have to take on the burden all the time. And I'm like, Michael, caregiver burnout is real, my friend. Like you can ask for help. Like you don't have to do it all alone, but like that's the journey that Michael's got to go on. He's got to learn that he's allowed to ask for help.
I know. Is he even the oldest?
Yes.
He is the oldest.
Yes, because at one point they're talking about birth order and like I have more to say on that, so I won't talk about it now. But
no, but they didn't say who was older among Michael and his other sister. He's either oldest or second oldest, but they were both like brother 2 and sister 2. So I don't know if we're told he's the oldest.
You know what? One of his sisters is Stella's age. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's the
Same,
only
right. So,
boy.
but like but there's 3 sisters that all have jobs. The other 2 are in college. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But whatever. I
toxic
guess it's
masculinity. It's
well,
toxic masculinity, man.
I guess still it's subversion of the oldest sister having to like do all that shit trope, I guess. Like
Yeah.
second oldest brother, second child brother.
It is a really interesting duality, and I wrote this down somewhere else. I guess it also it's an interesting duality with Michael, where like a lot of his his like main sort of character descriptions are like feminine, like traditionally feminine. Like he's he's a sex worker, which is like usually
True.
women, and like he likes to design clothes, which is like usually women.
Yeah, I didn't think of
Or
that.
like feminine men, but like he also has this like also the impact of like toxic masculinity of taking on the burden of his family and like feeling like he has to like be the quote unquote man of the house, and like so it's
Yeah.
like this really interesting duality of like Michael.
Yeah. Like all the compounding burdens. Like
Yeah.
the worst of all worlds. I don't know.
Well, no, the fashion design is fun. Like, you know,
Sure,
like,
sure. But but being the oldest, being the oldest sister and the
yeah.
oldest brother, yeah. So okay, yeah. So Michael. So the scene you were talking about is when he talks to Quan, right? And Quan
Yeah.
comes
And
over.
Quan is like, "Oh, do you need sex tips?" I'm like, "Does Michael need sex tips?"
He's like, "Oh, you haven't seen Stella for a week. Like, I guess you've been jerking off a lot." Like, and then they're like sitting on the couch, and Michael's like, yeah, this couch, these cushions right now. Yeah, no."
Quan's like, "What the fuck?" And then Quan is like, "So, do you think Stella is like Kai at all?" And Michael's like, "Nah." No, definitely not. And Quan is literally like, "Oh my god, this man, like the lights are on, but there is no work being done.
There's nobody home.
Yeah." Like, oh man.
God. So okay, so Michael has missed the deadline for talking to for like not really missed the deadline, but it's the day that
No,
he
he
was supposed to
hasn't.
tell Stella. And she wakes up and she has to like take her own dry cleaning to get cleaned because her housekeeper, another thing.
Okay.
Yeah. But
But
Stella's
she
rich.
has money. She has
I
like her
know.
housekeeper.
I
Yeah,
know.
she's like, her housekeeper's daughter is sick or something. So she's like,
Yeah.
"I can't come this week. You're gonna have to take your own dry cleaning." And Stella has no idea like what dry cleaner she usually uses. So she just like Googles closest dry cleaner, and it just so happens that is Michael's family shop.
Yep. So she rocks up and there's this old lady like struggling to like cut like a plant or tree branch or something with some
She's
like
like doing some
pruning shears.
landscaping in her
Yeah.
herb garden outside the dry cleaners. And it's like, I'm imagining it's like a strip mall, and this like old
Yeah,
lady
me
has somehow
too.
commandeered like
Yeah.
a plot of land in the middle of the sidewalk and is just growing an herb garden.
Yep. And the old lady like doesn't speak English, but she's like basically indicates to Stella like, I need you to do this for me. Like cut this for me right now. And Stella's like, okay. And like manages to do it. And then the old lady like she's like, okay, thank you. And like walks back in, like hiding the shears, like as if no one's gonna notice that she has them. She never comes back. It's never like, oh grandma, why have you been at the shears again? Like it's never like it's just like a cute moment. And so Stella so then Stella walks in and she sees Michael before he sees her. And she's like, oh my God, this is not fair. I wasn't stalking.
Yeah, she says, the quote is, she's like, oh, not fair. She'd only just realized she was obsessed with him today. She had time to stalk him like a full-time lunatic.
Is this when he like comes up to her and kisses her before the mom?
Yeah. Yeah, so she goes up and he's like, oh, like you have clothes that like don't. She's like, I have like I have special clothes taste. Like I don't like when there's like seams that are itchy and like all that stuff. And then she's like, maybe you can make me some clothes. And Michael is immediately like turned on by that. He's like, wow, that would literally be my life goal, like my dream come true. And then he accepts her offer. And yeah, this is when he kisses her because he wants to.
And who witnesses it but his mom? And she's immediately intrigued. And she's like, oh, like, who is this, Michael? And she's like, oh, Stella, like, you have to come for dinner. You have to come for dinner, meet the family. You have to do it. And Stella's like, okay. And so that night, Stella spends the rest of the day, like, freaking out about like what to do, and she Googles like Vietnamese social customs and like comes up with she's like, oh, okay, I should bring like a gift, which like wouldn't you, isn't that just like every social custom?
She
Like I don't
just runs
know.
she runs through, like, social rules in general. She's, like, sitting in her car, like, outside his house, and she's just, like, going down the list of, like, "Okay, like, make eye contact, but not for too long, and, like, make sure that you, like,
Mhm.
smile."
And she brings like flowers and wine or whatever. And then she goes in, and the first thing, like, basically the grandma's there watching TV, and Michael's youngest sister Janie is playing piano, but the piano is out of tune.
So she goes in, and she's, like, peeling mangoes with, Michael's mom and grandma because 'cause they're, like, preparing before dinner's ready. Because Michael's a cook, by the way. Michael can cook. Once again, like,
Mhm.
paw energy, big paw energy, BPE. And they're peeling the mangoes, and, like, I just, like, I need to know, please write in. Did everybody but me know there was, like, a giant seed in the middle of mangoes that you had to cut out? Because the first time I
Yes.
ever cut a mango, I mean, I know this now, but the first time I ever cut a mango, I got it from, like, I was walking home from work, and I picked it up from my local bodega. I took it home, and I tried to cut into it because I feel like every video I've seen of people cutting mangoes, like, they just, like, you just cut the mango in half, and then, like, suddenly, like, there the 2 mango slices, and there's no visual ever of a seed. And so I, like, tried to chop into this mango, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, there's something hard in the middle, and I thought, like, I was like, "Oh, the mango is frozen in the middle because it was, like, cold, and my bodega kept the fruit outside." Like, my bodega kept the fruit outside, so I was like, "Oh, it was cold outside, like, maybe the mango froze."
My God.
And I was like, "I don't understand," and I, like, tried to wait for it to defrost, and I was like, "This mango is not defrosting." And then finally, like, I looked up, like, how to cut a mango, and it was like, "Oh, cut out the seed." I was like,
Oh my
"What?" Because the
God.
seed is not like, this is not like an avocado seed or, like,
It's
any
very
kind of
much like
other.
an avocado
No, but
seed.
I'm saying it's not like you cut into it and, like, you can see it, like, it's
Oh,
a different
yeah.
color, it stands out,
It
like, the
comes
seed is
off. Well,
fucking
it's more
hidden.
attached, yeah. It's very
Yeah, the
annoying.
avocado seed, you can just, like, pop it out.
Yeah,
Like, the mango seed is a tricky motherfucker. It's
it is.
camouflaged within the mango. You can't see it. You just have to guess where to cut and, like, hope that you get close to the
Yeah.
seed. Like, it's so horrible. And I literally spent 2 hours trying to cut this fucking mango because nobody in all the mango cutting videos I'd ever seen shows the seed.
That's why you should just eat it like an apple. No, but I agree. I never thought about that. But okay, so pineapples would be vastly improved by being peelable. As I
Yes, I
pitched to
agree.
my ninth grade biology group for our GMO food, and they turned me down and wanted to make fast growing rice, even though champa rice has existed since literally 600 BC. Anyway, um, however, I now present that mango would be vastly improved by having more of a pit, like a nectarine or a peach, where it kind of just like comes out, like once you
Or
get.
just get rid of the seeds. We did it for bananas. Why can't we do it for mangoes?
Because well, you can make it smaller, but it needs to have a seed in order to propagate. Bananas do still have seeds. They're just very small. They're like
Yes,
the little things in the
exactly.
middle. Yeah.
Yes, and I can't feel them. They don't alter the texture.
The most annoying thing is that it's like the flesh is like attached to it and you can't really get it all off. Like that's the
Yeah.
worst. Whereas like with a nectarine, like imagine like cutting into a ripe nectarine. Like you could cut slices off the entire thing. They just like come off. Wait, where's my hair tie? Oh, I meant to bring a hair tie, but it's in my hair now. Oh, speaking of which, Stella. Okay, the fucking rubber bands in her hair. She said it the first she snapped. She's like taking her hair out later on, and she like takes it out, and she's like, "Oh no, I snapped my rubber band." And one time, I could have just like brushed it off as just like calling it that. Like it's not actually a rubber band. She just means like a hair tie. But then like later on, she keeps referring to it as a rubber band, and she's like, "I need a rubber band for my hair." And like, are you kidding? Like, you're gonna tell me this woman with sensory issues is putting an exposed rubber band in her
I don't think
hair?
so. I think
I
some people
better
just
fucking
call
hope
it
not.
that. Because like, a normal hair tie is literally just, like, a rubber band with cloth around
Yeah.
it.
Well, yeah, but it's a hair tie. That's
So
why it
it's
has a different name.
technically. Sure, but some people definitely call it rubber bands.
They're wrong.
Some people also use rubber bands, but some people just call it. I remember one time, like, I just had read too many scenes of people with long hair using rubber bands to put up their hair in books, and so like I finally tried it. Worst horrible experience. Don't put an actual rubber band in your hair.
No. Oh, it's hard.
Horrible.
It's only for like
Bad.
completely desperate times. I can't think when. I've definitely done it in like very desperate measures. Like maybe it's swim practice and
Yeah.
like for some reason I'm like late, so I have no choice but to like scrounge for a rubber band on the floor of the cafeteria or something. Like I can't think of any other. I have never that's made up situation, but that's like the only situation in which I would like even consider it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. So Stella's hanging out with the mom and the grandma. Grandma can't really speak English very well. And Stella is like, yeah, I like hanging out with her because the language barrier makes conversation hard. So like I don't have to talk with
Speak.
her. I don't have to make
Yeah.
small talk. Like it's lovely. We're just sitting next to each other peeling mangoes. Like I really enjoy it.
Yeah. But it's just basically just getting more and more stressful for her. The TV has been up this whole time. Then Janie starts playing the piano, and Stella's like, the piano's out of tune. Like, you should get it
Yeah.
tuned. And the mom's like, oh, well, my husband used to tune it. And Stella's like, oh, where is he? Can he tune it? And
Yeah.
she just the mom just ignores her and goes back to her work, like conversation closed, but Stella does not get that. And then the mom offers her like an appetizer. It's like a some kind of like cake that was like heated up in the microwave in a plastic
Yeah.
container. And Stella's like, wait, that's plastic. It has BPA. I looked this up after. Apparently it's a thing. I don't really know. It's not going to alter my life. I don't really know what to do about it since like all my containers are plastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently
Use
it can like
glass
poison your
containers.
food. And Stella's like, this is poison. Like no one should eat this. And the mom's like, okay, like fine. And then like Michael's sisters come in and start like arguing.
His twin sister. Oh no,
They're
I'm
not
sorry.
twins.
They're not twins. They're not twins.
And she's like, I want to ask if they're twins, but I learned from experience that that's rude. Like people don't like that.
But they're like arguing, and then the grandma's turning up the TV, and like
Yeah.
she's stressed. She keeps trying to ask questions about Michael's dad because she just does not realize that it's like not a topic to ask questions about.
Well, she also
and,
just really
like,
wants the piano to stop. Like she's
Yeah.
like, get him in here. Yeah.
So she's like, yeah, she's just freaks out. And then eventually the mom like leaves in tears, and Stella is like, I don't know what I did, but like I did something wrong. And so Stella's like, gotta go. Like, I'm sorry. And she's like really upset, and she runs out.
And Michael's like, no one makes my mom cry, like not even my like girlfriend or fake girlfriend or whatever. So he goes to comfort his mom. And meanwhile, Stella has like booked it home. Like, and then he goes out after Stella, but she's already left.
But as he's comforting his mom, he's like clearly like Stella is like very socially awkward. He doesn't yet realize that she has autism, but he's like, clearly she's secretly awkward, and I am just like my dad because I'm taking advantage of Stella by allowing her to pay me. And I'm like, Michael.
His mom's like, are you gonna marry Stella? And he's like, no. And she's like, did I raise you to go kissing people's daughters like that if you're not gonna marry them? Yeah.
I love the mom and the grandma. They're just like constantly like throwing out zingers.
Yeah. And but that's like, he's like, what kind of man accepted money from a naive woman to teach her things she could learn for free? And this is like, I don't know, I was almost losing my patience here because I was like, she's literally telling you she struggles with this. She can't learn it for free. She's like wanting connection, but struggling to get it. That's what, I mean, her plan's a little like convoluted, but why aren't you taking her word for it? Like,
it's just with anything. It's like, yes, I could learn Chinese for free. Like I could do Duolingo and like watch a lot of like, Chinese movies and like absorb the language. You know what I mean? Like I could probably teach myself potentially passable Chinese if I really worked hard on it. But it would be significantly easier if I had like a native speaker teaching me how to do it. Like, yes, you can learn a lot of things for free, but it's easier when you have someone who's good at it, like giving you personalized attention.
Yeah. So Stella wakes up the next morning and she's like, all right, well, obviously this is over. I've like fucked up, but all I can do is control my future actions, not the past. And she's like, Michael said the gift was a good idea the first time. I'll get another gift and go apologize. So she gets more flowers and chocolate and goes to the dry cleaner. And the second youngest daughter, Janie, is there. And she's like, Michael's not here. And Stella's like, I'm actually here to see your mom. And Janie's like, okay, like,
fine.
You're making progress. Yeah.
So she apologizes to the mom. And the mom is like, maybe next time, like, I won't heat things up in plastic and then you will be able to eat them. Like she like says something, she like extends, goodwill. And she's like, I know, like you weren't trying to be a bitch. Like,
and she's like, we still have lots more food. Like you come eat it tonight. And Stella's like, no, I can't do that anymore. Like once was enough.
Yeah.
So she goes to work. And she's like, this is where I actually wrote the note about like Stella's superpower of like living in the drudgery. She's like, the empty halls and low lit cubicles usually comforted her.
In the meantime, though, Michael is like sparring with Kai and Kwan, and then he suddenly has a brain blast. He's like thinking about Stella. And like finally his 2 brain cells, like the letter that the
Get it
first
together
one
for a
sent
drink.
months ago, like finally arrives. Like the other brain cell picks up the phone and the first one is like, hey, Stella really is exactly like Kai. Like she is also on the spectrum. And Michael's like, oh my God, like, wow, this all makes sense. And he asked Juan, he's like, when you were asking Stella, when you were asking whether Kai reminds me of Stella, like, do you know something? And Juan is like, oh my God, this man is so stupid. He's like, yes, she told me she's fucking autistic, you absolute dumbass.
Oh my God.
Okay, so we're going to end this episode on that little cliffhanger. Tune in next week to see whether Michael's 2 brain cells can continue to communicate and work together and, you know, make some moves. But in the meantime, where can they find us, Rachel?
Well, Allison, they can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Gmail, sort of, at We Read It One Night, the Gmail, at another at gmail.com to the end of that. On Twitter, at We Read It Podcast. And now on YouTube, also at We Read It One Night. Check us out. Yeah.
Right, that's YouTube is Rachel's project.
I spent a lot of time annoyingly clicking all the thumbnails to upload our old episodes. So go take advantage of
thumbnails
if that's something you're into. Allison did make the thumbnails. Well, you like
I made you a nice little thumbnail template.
Yeah, no, that was very nice. I just didn't understand the concept of that, but
okay.
All right.
Anyway, Catskills come in next week, folks. In the meantime, hang on to your butts with your claws and get excited.
All right.
Godspeed,
comrades.
Bye.